Welcome to the Athena 40 podcast, Conversations with Women from the MENA region. This series is in partnership with NOMA Women Advancement Establishment, a United Arab Emirates-based organization founded on the vision of an equitable world for women. In this series, we are hosting exceptional women from the Middle East and North Africa. They are thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and policymakers. And I am your host, Elizabeth Filippouli, founder of Athena 40, an international platform connecting women leaders. Thank you very much for joining me today for this podcast series. It is an honor to host you, Mrs. Al Kaylani.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to join you, Elizabeth, and I commend you on all that you are doing as Global Thinkers Forum and with your partners in NAMA in the United Arab Emirates.
May I call you Haifa?
Indeed, please do.
Thank you. This series is dedicated to women who have an exceptional journey in ways that inspire others and they can motivate others. And you are yourself one of those beacons of light and motivation. But I would like us to go back and visit your childhood years. So how did everything start?
Thank you again. Thank you for your kind words. I'm really proud and honored to come from a family where empowerment was the key word. I am the eldest of 5 girls in the family, so we're 5 sisters. And our parents have always believed in empowering us. And I don't believe if they had sons, they would have done more for them than they have done for their daughters. From the beginning, we were again encouraged to have the best education and to achieve the best that we could in our education. I enjoyed my early schooling years in Lebanon, where my parents were living. And my parents are Lebanese of Palestinian origin. And I then carried on my schooling in England. Then went back to university in Beirut and then went back to England. So we were really empowered to seek the best and highest education. And we were also very much encouraged to also post-graduation to work and to be financially independent. It was very important that we learned to be financially independent from that time. That's why I said it has been a privilege to be being brought up by very enlightened parents, educated, of course, and empowering parents. I got married after my graduation and after I worked at the United Nations. My late husband was ambassador for Jordan and Jordanian, so I'm very proud of all my roots, Lebanon, Palestine, Jordan, and of course I'm a UK national and I've been living in the UK since 1976. So it has been a privilege to serve Jordan as ambassadors to Tunisia, to India, with Nepal, Sri Lanka, and Thailand, opening our minds to new cultures, new learning, but at the same time, building those bridges between the Arab region and these countries where we served. And so building bridges of knowledge and understanding, cultural and in all as social, in all aspects, is being very key in my life, early married life. And I think also it was easy for me to fit into that role thanks to the education that I had. It again was Arab, but also international at the highest level between Beirut and the United Kingdom. Went to 2 excellent universities, the American University in Beirut and then Oxford University to read for a diploma in economic development. And worked at the United Nations, again, regional office on the economic development of the region. Development is very close to my heart. And this is why I chose economics and that subject, to see how we can improve the livelihoods of men, women in the region, and how we can improve the economies and create opportunities for everyone.
You talked before about your parents and that they were very liberal and that all 5 girls, they were treating you as citizens of the world, as I understand it.
Indeed.
Which should be accountable, should have dreams, pursue these dreams, and become independent. Was that the norm in the society that you were growing up, or was it the exception?
I will say my parents were exceptional parents. But of course, also Beirut, when I was growing up in Beirut, Beirut was a very liberal city, and there was a very high levels of education, excellent schools, excellent American university, where had the privilege to join. It's one of the best universities in the region. But no, our parents, I think, were exceptionally empowering, liberal, because they believed that the education will give us the tools to become then independent in our future, whether we decide to get married or pursue a career. They wanted us to have all the freedom and the empowerment factors. And nothing empowers you more than education. Nothing empowers more than education. And that supporting environment at home from the early years.
What age were you when you met your husband?
Actually, I've known my husband all my life because we are second cousins. We are second cousins, so our families were well related and we've known each other all our lives. But yes, we came together in let's say, the engagement manner that led then to our formal engagement and marriage. Yeah, that was some time ago. But I already have completed my studies, my BA, my MA, and already I was working for 1 year.
And the prospect of getting married to a diplomat, which meant that it would be a life of travels and living in different parts of the world, which personally, if you ask me, I find fascinating. But at the same time, one could say that it is quite uncertain or unsettling, or how do you bring your own family up? What was this prospect like for the young Haifa?
To share with you, Elizabeth, when I got married, I moved to Jordan and I thought I would live there forever after because my husband was not a diplomat then. He was a leader in the private sector. And what happened is that shortly after our wedding, he was appointed by the late King Hussein of Jordan, as the first ambassador to go out on a post from the private sector to join the diplomatic service, to serve. And again, the role was to promote trade between Jordan and the countries where we went. First, we went to Tunisia, and then we went to India. And with India, we were, as I said, non-resident ambassadors to Thailand, Sri Lanka, and Nepal. So it was a privilege to serve. It was an honor. We love traveling. I always enjoy traveling. And going to these regions was so enlightening and so informative. And of course, being an ambassador's wife is also a full-time job. Diplomatic life is a 24/7 job. And I enjoyed it. And I think, as I said before, I decided with my husband. And importantly, because of my earlier education, my exposure, my travel, I felt confident and in my role, as well as I was learning all the time and interacting. And yes, we were the youngest, actually, ambassadors in the diplomatic corps, both my husband and I, when we went to India. As you know, India is one of the most important posts in the world. And, most of the ambassadors were much older than us, but we made very good friends and with many of them, and age was no matter. And it was an honor to really to live in such a great country and to learn about the culture of India and the cultures of the other countries where we served.
I think that one of the greatest privileges of having this opportunity to travel and more so live in different countries is that we come across exceptional people and we learn from them, from their stories, their wisdom. And that, of course, opens up our minds. I wonder if you can think of any particular person, woman or a man, that you met and inspired you, or you learned from her or him, quite a lot.
I must tell you the two impactful things that stayed in my heart and in my mind and actually shaped my perhaps future work later, especially in regards of the empowerment of women. When we served in Tunisia, it was an honor to meet the late president of Tunisia, who was the founder president, President Bourguiba. and his wife. And I was so impressed by his leadership, and also to learn how empowered women were in Tunisia, because the president, when the country won independence and formulated its constitution, women's rights were in the constitution. So it was this great president, really, and all women in Tunisia, they acknowledge that and they say we are very grateful. I mean, this is really because when you get things in the law, then you know that your rights are protected. They are protected by society, by the community, by all. Nothing protects you more than the law. And so it was a great privilege to meet the president and meet his wife, and then meet the many empowered women in Tunisian government at the time and in Tunisian society to see and to know how their empowerment came. In India, I had the privilege also to meet with Mrs. Gandhi. At the time, she was a prime minister. And my goodness, what a tremendous, amazing woman leader, running the largest democracy in the world. And we met also on the personal level. She was proud of her role as not only a mother, but a grandmother. And I recall very well, one afternoon, she invited all diplomats' wives with their children to her residence to come and meet her children, and importantly, to our children to play with her grandchildren. And she was there. She left all duties. She joined us in the tea in her garden. All diplomats' wives, ambassadors were not allowed to come. It was only the wives and the children. And we spoke, and that touched my heart. That's such a great woman. And the number one political leader in the country honored her role as a mother and as a grandmother, and showed us all how dear that role is important to her.
So Tunisia first, India second. Which was the third country that you moved to?
From Tunisia, and with India, as I said, we had the great privilege to visit 3 other countries, Thailand, Sri Lanka, and Nepal, as non-resident ambassadors. And then after we finished our term in India, we came to the United Kingdom, and my husband decided to return to the private sector. So we lived in London since 1976, but he returned back to his original work after taking the permission from His Majesty.
And when did this inspiration or dream, I don't know, how shall I call it, to launch, to create an organization like the Arab International Women's Forum, when was it born inside your heart, inside your head?
Living in London, as I mentioned, since 1976, in the beginning, I was very engaged with voluntary, charitable work. In the charitable causes that I supported, whether being on the committee or supporting, through donations and fundraising, I focused on women and children. And then I was invited by the Arab women's groups in the UK to represent them on the board of the International Federation for Women. The International Federation for Women is a very large organization in the UK. At the time, it had 33,000 members, 35,000 members, drawn from all over the world. I became a board member. Then I became vice president. And then I became president of the International Federation for Women in London. And I remember when we did conferences and we did events, often I'll be asked, are you an Arab? Are you from the Middle East, really? So I realized there was a lot of misconception, a lot of stereotyping about women in the region. And when I completed my term as president of the International Federation for Women, with a group of very good friends, female friends in the Arab region, as well as in the UK and Europe, I told them, I decided that to overcome the stereotyping, it was imperative and important to set up an independent, a non-profit, non-governmental, non-political organization to connect women in the Arab region. Together, of course, we are 22 Arab countries. Our situation is different from one country to the other. So it's important that we connect, we learn from each other, but very, very important that we also connect with our sisters in the international community, in Europe, in the UK, the US, Africa, Asia. So this was the ethos behind the Arab International Women's Forum, to break the stereotyping, let Arab women be there themselves to tell their stories instead of somebody writing about and having the misconceptions. But importantly, my studies, my passion for development played a major role. I am a firm believer, no community, no society can develop without optimizing all its resources. Women are 50% of our population. How can we move forward in our region, the Arab region or any other region, without optimizing, utilizing, harnessing that resource, important resource in every aspect, political life, social, economic, in all sectors. So these two, building those bridges of knowledge, creating knowledge, breaking stereotypes, as well as building our communities, building our societies on firm grounds to create a better future for our children and grandchildren. That can only happen when we empower our women.
What year was it that you founded it?
We started preparations in 2000 and we launched the AIWF in London in 2001. We're about our 20th anniversary. I'm really proud of the journey.
So 2 decades almost have passed. How would you compare the beginning of this journey to where you are now? Not through the lens of Haifa, not yet, not through the eyes of Haifa. I would like to ask you first in terms of social, political, economic change. So what was the landscape in the region back then for women, and what improvements have we seen on the way? A good part of that, your organization, AIWF, with your good work, has been supporting and promoting.
Indeed, Elizabeth, when we started the Arab International Women's Forum, we were talking about windows of opportunity opening up for Arab women. There were windows. And why we saw windows at that time? Because education. Our governments have invested in education for men, for women. And we began seeing the crop, we began seeing at the time the leaders emerging in the Arab region. Now, 20 years on, without a doubt, I can say doors have opened up for women in the Arab region. Over the years, of course, the investment in the education sector were enhanced. But most importantly, there has been a drive, top-down approach and bottom-up approach in the region, across all countries of the region, some countries more than others, but across all the region, to support, to empower, and to engage women. It became known, not only it is acknowledged that this is not just a matter of human right, it's a matter of an economic imperative and a social imperative. And we began seeing outstanding examples of women being appointed to all positions in the political sphere, ministers, many governments. At this moment of time, have cabinets that have 7, 8 key women ministers, members entering parliament, women entering parliaments, the Shura Council, joining businesses, opening businesses, joining boards of companies, family-owned companies and other companies, women lawyers, women judges. Just last week, Kuwait appointed 8 female judges. Ambassadors. How many Arab countries now are represented at the highest level, from Washington to London, by female ambassadors, outstanding female diplomats. So without a doubt, we have seen a sea of change across the region. Importantly, while we acknowledge all this, and we are grateful and we are admiring and we are supportive, and we have played our role throughout in this journey, in all our programs, we have really taken it step by step with Arab women in all this journey over the last 20 years in all fields, launching many initiatives and doing many programs, including the Young Arab Women Leaders Initiative, the Women in the Law Initiative, the Women in STEM Initiative, and many others. But importantly, we have to recognize the real fact that we are reminded of by ILO and World Bank reports, still the participation of women overall in the workforce in the Arab region remains amongst the lowest in the world. So we've come a long way, but we have still a long way to go. But we're on the right track. I'm always optimistic. What we have achieved cannot be undone. On the contrary, it needs to be built upon. And we and others like us now are working across the region to ensure that this momentum enhances and moves forward even more post-pandemic to ensure that women's rights not only are not impacted adversely by the pandemic, but they are enhanced and women can maintain their march forward in serving their families, their communities, their societies, and the stability and the development of their country in the region.
You were someone, as you mentioned before, that was empowered from a young age, thanks to your good parents, to, never accept stereotyping, never accept cliches, right?
May I add one thing here, Elizabeth?
Please.
Apart from my parents, I would add very strongly, I have been empowered by my late husband, who really supported me and encouraged me in all the voluntary work that I have taken since I lived in London, including setting up the Arab International Women's Forum. He was most supportive, most encouraging, and throughout, and was very proud of my work in this field. And so without his support and his encouragement and his counsel and advice over the years, I would not have been able to deliver what I am proud to have humbly delivered.
Bless his soul. And if I may say something here, it's not very often the case that we are having, supportive family members around us, not necessarily because they do not mean to be supportive. Sometimes they can be either overprotective or they can be influenced by their own fears and their own insecurities. And I guess my question is, how can women who do not live in equally supportive environments as you have, and I would add myself as well, because I myself was privileged and lucky to have very empowering parents and a husband, how can other women battle stereotyping and find the strength, the resilience to go against societies and people who label them?
As I mentioned, it is important to believe in yourself. It's important to stand firm. It's important to believe in your rights and to be aware of your rights. Often women are not aware of their rights. And we know the challenges that women face in the region up till now, from social norms, societal norms, to perhaps not the full implementation of the legislation that we have, to not being even given the opportunity to balance work at home by being given enough maternity leave and support and, to raise families. And we also know that many young ladies who are well educated sometimes opt not to enter the workforce. So we do realize that we do have these challenges in the community that women face. And sometimes these challenges can come from within these women themselves, within women themselves. Women must have confidence in themselves. It's so important to feel confident. It's important to look at others, to look at role models. It's important to believe in yourself. It's important to be empowered by your education. Okay, you mentioned that we're looking at the case where the environment is not supportive, but education has been quite widespread in the region, and girls have had the highest results of joining and highest rates of joining schools and universities. So be empowered by your education, be empowered by your confidence in yourself, and believe in yourself, and put goals, and seek help. Seek help from other women's organizations, look at role models, interact with others. we always learn from each other. This is why supportive organizations are very important. And women, by the way, have excelled also, not only in, as I mentioned, in business and in politics and in parliaments and as ambassadors and governors, but also in civil society. The revival of actually the widespread of civil society organizations in the Arab region that we have seen in the last 20 years is women-led. Most of the time, they're women-led. So women have a very important role to play in the community as such, and civil society organizations are supportive. So you need to find, first of all, never let anything pull you down, because that you will not help yourself or help others. Stay firm, stay standing tall, and seek help if you need it, but believe in yourself. And I always add another advice: don't take no for an answer. Be persistent where you believe you want to achieve a certain goal.
Do you think that it helps to have a self-purpose in life? Because when we have a vision to drive us forward, to be a compass, then that generates a form of passion. And that really, makes you never want to take no for an answer, makes you want to do things and feeling this confidence that, yes, I can do it.
Exactly. I agree. Passion is extremely important in everything that you want to achieve in life. You need to feel passionate about it. You need to believe in it. You need to feel strong about it, because that will drive you to deliver it. And that will drive you to bring others on board to come and work with you on it. Because when you share it with them, they can feel your passion. They can feel your commitment. They can feel your dedication. And of course, all that has to be supported. Passion by itself is not enough. You need to have the data, the information. If you want to bring somebody on board to help you in any area, you must study well your area before you embark on it. Study well your goal before you embark on it.
Haifa, you are the only Arab commissioner of the International Labour Organization. This is a major thing, because in the history of that organization, the biggest instruments that the international community has in promoting labor's rights, and that is something that you've achieved with your excellence. First of all, what does it mean in terms of your role? How can you influence the policies and the future of ILO? But also, how do you benefit societies, young people, women, who are now also being challenged through unemployment because of the COVID-19 impact? How can you help them through that role?
Thank you. It has been indeed a great privilege and an honor to be invited by the ILO to join the ILO Global Commission on the Future of Work, which was set up in 2017 to work on preparing an important report about the future of work. And the report was going to be published on the occasion of the centenary of the ILO. And I was proud to be the commissioner for 2 years, 2017 to 2019, and to be there for the publication of the report in January 2019 in Geneva at the ILO headquarters. Also, I was very proud to be on the Global Commission of the ILO with outstanding commissioners from the rest of the world, representing Africa, Asia, Europe, the US, from all over the world, and also very, very proud of the sound leadership that we had in the Commission by the Commission two co-chairs, the Prime Minister of Sweden and the President of South Africa. So we had outstanding leaders at the helm of the Commission. And of course, we were supported by the ILO and Guy Ryder, the Director General, and the whole team of the ILO. Indeed, the question of the future of work, the question of women's participation in the workforce, youth participation and unemployment rates that we have in the Middle East and other regions of the world, all these were on the table as we sat for the 2 years in several meetings in Geneva. Our report that came out in January was a human-centered report. It put forth human-centered recommendations, policies for how to address future work challenges that really focused on harnessing the human capabilities under the umbrella of the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. And of course, we focused on key areas because, work is human dignity. What is work? Work is human dignity. And there was a lot of emphasis on how the ILO in this report, as it moves into the new centenary, maintains its focus on decent work, maintains its focus on perhaps a new social contract that we need to have in the labor market, maintains its emphasis on women's role in the care economy. And we've seen how much that now has been at the forefront as we have been living the last 7-8 months, the COVID-19 pandemic crisis all over the world. Women's role in the informal economy, also in our region and many other regions of the world, including a woman's important role in rural communities. So we addressed all these issues and put forth a framework for focusing on the jobs of the future and for creating also empowering the youth and women and all sections in the community through focusing on lifelong learning, the importance of skilling, upskilling, reskilling. This is so important. And now we realize with COVID-19 and our dependence on the technology that came, full dependence now, that came sooner than any of us has expected, as we were planning even our Global Commission report. This is so important to be ready to face the future from now, to be able to master the new technologies. So lifelong learning, skilling and reskilling, and decent work, and reinvigorating the social contract, and staying focused on the human. Even as we're looking at artificial intelligence, even as we're looking at all the new technologies coming to play in our lives and in the environment and in our industries and in our universities, at the end of the day, the focus must remain on the human and on human capabilities in driving change forward, in creating the jobs and in creating the opportunity that we want to see for all in the labor market.
We are witnessing this shift in the global job market. From your experience and your insights, would you advise the younger generation, but also aspiring entrepreneurs, to focus on a specific area, a specific industry like technology, innovation, AI? Where do you see this trend, which is also being accelerated by COVID-19 and this crisis? Where do you see the future of work and our economies being pushed towards?
Actually, we were talking already even before COVID-19 on the importance of innovation, of technology, of incorporating that in our educational systems long before COVID-19, to be fair. But of course, the crisis has brought this to the fore and made it more urgent. And of course, we are now learning more and more about the importance of technology in industry, in education, tech education, even in when we talk about the agriculture sector, agri-tech is now very important because people also have turned towards food security in many parts of the world, including our region, and water security, and how we can harness technology to reduce our consumption of water and to produce food. Because many countries were dependent on food imports. And they realized with this crisis that some of that was not possible. And so how you create your own internal resources in agriculture and in other areas using the new technology. We have also to acknowledge that, again, before COVID, we've seen in the Arab region many young entrepreneurs, young women leaders, and young men setting up tech businesses. We've seen it in Beirut, Lebanon, in Jordan, in the Gulf states, in many countries in the region. We have tech parks actually set up. There is one at the American University in Beirut. There are a number in Jordan. So young entrepreneurs were drawn to the technology. They love it because they are tech savvy. We have an amazing young generation that is tech savvy. And they love it. And it gives them the independence. And many of them young tech women who are tech entrepreneur women who also can be able to work from home. So I think this trend needs to be further encouraged, further supported. They need guidance. They need also financing. Financing must become easier. They used to struggle before with seeking financing. Now, with the world that we're living in, I think donors, governments must really help these young entrepreneurs, tech entrepreneurs, because they are the entrepreneurs of now and the future. And their growth will create other jobs and will inspire others to enter in the sector. They are the right generation to lead in this drive, to take the lead in this matter. So I am optimistic that our region is realizing the importance of technology now more than ever. Look at the UAE, they just set up a new university for artificial intelligence. There are so many new initiatives that are coming up with every day to create jobs for the young men and their young women and in the new sectors. But of course, that requires education as well as training. As I said, skilling, upskilling, reskilling, and learning. So I think all of us and governments in the region, private sector organizations, multinationals working in the region are adopting this and moving fast track to adopt the new technologies and to empower their teams to be men, women, to be on track with this. It's very important.
I would add also access to networks. You yourself are someone who has been creating, clusters of people, women primarily, but of course you work together and we must work together. Women and men must join forces if we are to promote, positive change in our societies. So providing access to education, hugely important, to finances, extremely important, but then also to networks for knowledge transfer, but also for opportunities for partnerships that stretch around the world.
Absolutely. Perhaps a slight correction, although the Arab International Women's Forum was set up as a women's organization, but really to support women, but it's not a women organization as such, it is a development organization. As I stated at the outset, we are there when we focus on women, we focus on that 50% that we want to see. Without its empowerment, countries cannot really secure their development in all spheres. From the beginning, without the support of our male partners and male board members, we would not have been able to carry on with the journey for the last 20 years. So the Arab International Women's Forum is a nonprofit organization, and we are very proud to work with outstanding multinational organizations, Arab private sector organizations, as well as global institutions such as the World Bank and the OECD, the Union for the Mediterranean, the EBRD, and we work with many, many men throughout these organizations, outstanding men leaders. We have men on our board since our 10th anniversary. I repeat, we are a development organization. But as you rightly said, to be able to deliver on all these programs and to support women and to support the youth in finding the jobs, from day one, AIWF focused on creating a coalition of partners. And by that, I mean governments. We work with governments in the Arab region and internationally, private sector, whether it's local private sector or multinational. We work with civil society organizations. We work with universities because for us, education is a pillar in everything that we do. And also we work with the media because we want a good story to be told. We don't want the media to publish stories that are not accurate or perhaps not based on the facts on the ground for women. So from the beginning, all our conferences had government representatives, as I said, private sector, civil society, universities, the media, and importantly, young women themselves. We always had students. Always our conferences and events, we invite at least 10% of the gathering to be students. So yes, we create this coalition of partners. Our partners have grown over the years. I'm very, very proud to say, and we work with them all the time. We believe very firmly it is by working together, Elizabeth, that we can succeed. It's only by working together, hand in hand, with our partners, all our global partners who see eye to eye with us on the programs that we lead and who are also sharing in our mission and vision. And we work together. You cannot achieve anything by working alone.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think that with fragmentation, no one really can achieve a lot, but by joining forces, the messages are being amplified, the impact is much bigger. So collaboration, especially in this world, which, as we were saying in the beginning, is very interconnected and interdependent, is going to be key for success, especially for organizations who work towards a common goal. My final question, because I know we went beyond our time, but this has been such an amazing conversation with you, Haifa. My last question goes back to a point which I made before, 20 years since the launch of AIWF, but now I would like to focus on Haifa Al Kaylani. Who was Haifa then, and who is Haifa today?
Haifa then was educated, looked at the world positively, keen to learn more. By the way, my motto is, one of my mottos is a lesson a day. Every day we learn something. Every day we learn something new. And keen to learn and keen to serve. I was brought up, Elizabeth, also, one third thing that we were brought up on in my home was, as I said, education first, work, career, work, and three, making a difference, reaching out to the community, supporting in any way you can. So these are the three things that were instilled in me from very early years. So 20 years ago, yes, these were instilled in me happily, proudly. And I think over the last 20 years, I believe did my best to maintain a journey of learning throughout, every day, to maintain a journey of delivery, work, and with others, never alone. And yes, to make a difference, to make a positive difference, to make an impact, to effect change for the better, and to use this network, use the connections, use the learning, use the know-how, use the relationship to impact change for the better in this world that we live in, which I believe life is a great gift from the Lord Almighty, and it's incumbent on us to utilize, optimize the gifts that He has endowed us with in making this place a better place. And yes, I believe I have been working on this journey to fulfill. I'm still working. I have not stopped, and nor will I stop on this journey of learning, working, and yes, delivering to make a difference.
It's been a privilege to host you, Haifa, and it's a major privilege to have had the opportunity to do things together with AIWF. Global Thinkers Forum has been very proud for the partnerships that we've had over the years, and I know that Nama feels the same. You are a role model for all of us.
Thank you. Thank you.
I wish you the best. Health, happiness, and always energy at the maximum, because the world needs women and individuals like yourself.
Thank you, Elizabeth. It's been my pleasure to be with you, an outstanding leader yourself, who I greatly admire. And I admire your work with the Global Thinkers Forum. I admire the outstanding work of Nama in Sharjah. And I wish you all the best, and we will continue to work together to support each other and to inspire each other.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Athena 40 podcast, Conversations with Women from the MENA region, brought to you in partnership with NAMA Women Advancement Establishment. If you want to get in touch with us, please email us on info@athena40.org. That is info@athena40.org. For NAMA's work, please visit www.namawomen.ae. Keep well, stay inspired and motivated.